Well, hello BookTube. My name is Juan. I am just one reader, your favorite Mexican booktuber, and today I am answering a book tag. I think it's been ages since I last did a book tag here on my channel, so I am very excited to share a variety of books with you. This book tag is the Picture This tag, which was created by Shelley Swearingen and Spread Book Joy. And I saw this video made by Gina Stanyer Books. I love her channel. I love her taste. I love the way she expresses her opinions. So thank you, Gina, for the inspiration for this book tag. So the Picture This book tag was created to celebrate picture books. And, you know, I love picture books myself. I don't usually read them, but the ones that I do remember having read, especially in my past, those are some of the most important or memorable reading experiences that I've had. So I love celebrating picture books. Now, don't worry, the answers to this tag don't necessarily have to be picture books. So I'm just going to mention random books that I love and want to share with you, but the prompts are based on picture books. So the first question or the first prompt is Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch, which I love this because that's the book that Joey reads in Friends. I think it's season 9 or something, at the birthday party. It's Emma's birthday party, her first birthday party. And, you know, Phoebe sings a song, Emma, your name poses a dilemma. And then Joey does a dramatical reading of one of her favorite books, which turns out to be Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch. So I love that. Name a book that you imagine you will love forever. And my answer, I actually have two answers for this question, are The Never-Ending Story by Michael Ende. This is my favorite book of all time. It's a book that I have reread throughout my life many times. I just reread it last year, and I just confirmed how brilliant it is. I think this is the best book that has ever and will ever be written. I think it's the best thing under the sun, basically. The best fantasy and just the best thing that's ever been written. So I think my opinion has been confirmed time and time again, so I will probably love it forever. And the second one is The Shadow of the Wind, La Sombra del Viento. This is by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. He was a Spanish author who passed away in 2020, which was very tragic because he was very young and he gave us an incredible legacy of books. And it's so sad that he has passed away. But anyway, The Shadow of the Wind is another book that I have reread many times throughout my life. And the first time I read it, I was, I think, 13 or 14. And it was just one of those books that hit me right there at the right time, the right moment, the right place. It just clicked with me. It resonated with me like you have no idea. And I have come back to it again and again, and it just keeps getting better and better. It's a mystery. It's like a literary thriller, like historical fiction, and it's set in Spain, in Barcelona, and it's all about books and reading and writing and, you know, the mystery behind the secret author. I love this book, and I think I will always keep coming back to it. The second prompt is Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad, No Good Day. Which books or comforting things do you turn to when you are having a bad day? So, good things that I keep, or comfortable things that I keep coming back to, comforting things that I keep coming back to. A lot of TV shows like Friends and Gilmore Girls. Movies, Harry Potter, of course. I I think that's about it. But, I thought of a great answer. An author, a voice that I keep coming back to whenever I feel like I just need a booster of energy and laughter and joy and vitality, has to be P.G. Wodehouse. I was actually talking about P.G. Wodehouse and how he always recharges me with energy with Leo from A Little Book Life. I was talking about this with him just a few days ago, or a week ago. I was telling Leo that P.G. Wodehouse just gives me all the good things in life in the perfect dose. So whenever I feel not necessarily down, because I'm not a person who feels down or bummed out. I'm a very upbeat, cheerful person in general, and I'm pretty much happy and content, like as a baseline. But whenever I feel like I just need an extra, like kick in the butt of just nice things in life, I go to P.G. Wodehouse, mainly because his writing and his voice, they feel incredibly charming and delightful, but not in like a cynical way. It's very wholesome and absurd and quirky and eccentric in the best possible ways. It's just so charming and delightful. So I keep coming back to P.G. Wodehouse. Prompt number 3 is The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Which book or series or character sparked your hunger for reading? And honestly, there's only one right answer for this for me, and that has to be Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling. Still one of my favorite books, still one of my favorite series, and definitely one of my favorite writers. J.K. Rowling is an amazing writer. I love everything that she does in here. And also in her other books, The Casual Vacancy, the Robert Galbraith novels, the Ichabod. Like, I really, really like J.K. Rowling's style of writing, and everything that she does, I think, clicks and resonates with me personally. But anyway, coming back to the point, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or the Sorcerer's Stone, or La Piedra Filosofal, as I read it for the first time when I was 7 years old. Yeah, I think I was 7 years old when I first read Harry Potter y la Piedra Filosofal, which was the Spanish translation that I read, because I've lived in Mexico City my entire life. I still do. So it's a funny story. My mother sort of forced me into reading. I was gonna say she talked me into doing it, but no, she pretty much had to force me to read Harry Potter, the first book, because I didn't want to read anything. I never liked reading. No one in my family has ever enjoyed reading anything. So naturally, I didn't want to read anything. And a lot of people at my school started reading the Harry Potter books because, they had just appeared in Mexico City for the first time. This was back in 1997 or 8, and so it was a brand new thing. It was it was very in, it was very trendy, and a lot of people were starting to discuss that these books were great for children, and a lot of people were obsessing over them, especially children and their parents. So my mother, even though she has never read a book in her life, she doesn't like that, she sat me down very seriously and she told me, you know what, I think I'm gonna get this book for you, and I think you will love it because everyone does. And I was like, no, why are you making me read? And the rest is history. I am probably the biggest Harry Potter fan that has ever lived. So thank you, Mom. This sort of sparked the initial flame. I don't know how to continue with this metaphor, but yeah, this was really the thing that ignited my passion, my hunger, my love, my thirst for reading. So after Harry Potter, I also read some other things that I loved. The Artemis Fowl series by Owen Colfer, which is great. Historic Materials by Philip Pullman. The Sally Lockhart series by Philip Pullman. The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, which even though they are very religious inspired, and I don't like religion at all, I loved those books. You know what? The Lemony Snicket, A Series of Unfortunate Events, those books were like crack cocaine for me. Like, I lived to read those books. But it all comes down to Harry Potter. Prompt number 4 is Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Seuss, which is a great book. I actually love Dr. Seuss. What is the most unusual book you have ever read? Honestly, this is an incredibly difficult, borderline impossible question, but I did think of a book that I actually don't remember reading, but I do know that I read. It was so quirky and weird and wonderful and bizarre that I only read it once. I was very young. I was probably way too young to be reading that, and it probably just went like over my head. But I do want to read it again because I do remember that it was very unusual, but I also remember that I loved it. I loved the experience, and that is The Mystery of the Solitaire Mystery by Jostein Gaarder. Jostein Gaarder. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm just going to go with that sort of standard American pronunciation. Jostein Gaarder. He is mostly known for Sophie's World, which I actually have somewhere. Forget about it. But you know, that Sophie's World, which is about, you know, philosophy and the history of philosophy. But this book, The Solitaire Mystery, is sort of a fantasy, like a philosophical fantasy. Very surreal philosophical fantasy. That's the way that I would describe this book. It has a beautiful cover. Of course, I read it in Spanish because these editions of Spanish translations of his work are great. I do remember it's a beautiful, interesting, very intellectual story, but very fun, and just it really keeps your mind racing and going in circles. It's very similar to Michael Ende, very European, surreal, philosophical, intellectual fantasy, The Never-Ending Story being the prime example of that, and this one. So I probably read this book 17 years ago, and I need to read it again. Question number 5, Where the Wild Things Are, which is a book that I always wanted to read, but I never did. What is your favorite book featuring the natural world? Well, I immediately thought of this, so I am choosing The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb, which I know it's fictional, but even though it's fictional, the nature writing in these books, especially in this trilogy, the Live Ship Traders trilogy, I mean, Robin Hobb has murdered me with this trilogy, and the rest of the third trilogy in this series, the Tawny Man trilogy, also features some vivid, amazing, natural, descriptive scenes and passages. It's just to die for. You know, I won't spoil it, but yeah, The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb, and also The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. This is a book that I read and loved a few years ago. I think it was 2017 or 2018 when I read this. It's gothic, it's dark, it's feminist in a way. It's very character driven. It's very fast paced in my opinion, but a lot of people say that it's slow paced because it's very descriptive, and the descriptions are mostly natural descriptions of these like English swamps and bogs, and it's just wonderful. Prompt number 6 is Good Night Moon. Do you read at bedtime? Do you read to someone else at bedtime? Did anyone ever read to you at bedtime? And the answer to all of those questions is a big resounding no. I don't read at bedtime just because I actually do it the other way around. Reading is something that I do pretty much exclusively in the morning, just because of the sunlight factor. I don't like reading with a lamp. I like reading with natural light and lots of it. So I usually read in the very early in the morning, very early in the day. And do I read to someone at bedtime? No. Was I read to by someone at bedtime when I was growing up? No. Honestly, like I said, I come from a family of non-readers. First of all, people don't usually read in Mexico City at least. Reading is not common here, as it is in some other places in the world, like the United States or in Europe. Here in Mexico City, reading is something that many people don't do. It's not common at all. People don't read as a hobby. And specifically in my family, I think I am the first reader in generations. Like, none of my parents or their siblings read or have read. I know for a fact my parents have never read one single book for their own enjoyment, for their own pleasure in their lives. They're just not that kind of people. My cousins, my aunts and uncles, I think I have one aunt who sort of sometimes read. My grandmother used to read like down brown thrillers, but I am the first probably in my family tree who enjoys reading the way that I do. So no one ever really read to me when I was a child. Prompt number 7, guess how much I love you. Who had the biggest influence on you as a reader? So because no one in my family really read, I had to sort of go and outsource that kind of figure of identification, from outside of the family. And luckily for me, I encountered a lot of people in life that really showed me what reading could do. At school, I was lucky enough to encounter some teachers when I was like in elementary or primary school. Some teachers encouraged us to read, but it wasn't really until I was in middle school, sort of around 12, 13 years old, that I started I started having some other teachers who really promoted that we read and that we enjoyed and developed opinions, important opinions about what we read. And I especially had one teacher who was a reader himself, like a real passionate reader himself. So I really sort of related to him and identified with that part of him. And many of the books that I read in that period of my life, which is a very formative portion of your life as a reader, was because of him. And finally, prompt number 8, The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein, which, by the way, I love Shel Silverstein. Which book or set of books would you give to an emerging reader, or which books have you given as a gift more than once? So I love gifting books to people, even though, like I said, most people here in Mexico City don't usually or typically read. I always try to just push books and make people at least consider reading them. So books, that's something that I usually give out as presents or gifts. To my friends, I usually give, things that I think they might enjoy, something very specifically tailored to them. But I think for children, I think it's very important to give them something that will be original or that will feel escapist, something that will be fun. First and foremost, it has to be fun, something that will make them fall in love with reading and with not just the story, but with the act of physically reading a book. Because I really believe in that. I really believe in physically reading a book with your hands and feeling the paper in your hands. For me, ebooks and Kindles and all of that, that's the devil. Okay, so just stay clear. We don't want any of that here on this channel. I love physically reading a book. So, of course, I would give them Harry Potter, something like Harry Potter. I would give them maybe the Robin Hood books if they are 12, 13 and up. I would give them many books, honestly. And, funny story, I was a teacher for many years, and I taught children in between 10 and 12 years old, let's say. And I gave them a lot of my books, of the books that I read when I was a child that I had stored in boxes. I decided it was time to let them go and give them to the next generation. So I just gave them to my students, and they loved me for giving them such an important part of me. And for me, those books from my childhood are a treasure. So for them, knowing that a teacher was giving them such an important part of himself was very important, I think, very significant. But a very important book or a series of books that I do think children should read, regardless of race, age, gender, religion, whatever, is Historic Materials by Philip Pullman. These books really made me grow up. When I was growing up, these books really made me think critically, not just on religion. Religion is a very, to me specifically, religion is something that I want young people to be very critical of. I want them to think critically about faith and religion and what they make of it. I really want people to grow up thinking about those kinds of things. I think it's very important and very formative. But even regardless of that, I think Historic Materials is a great formative experience for young people and for young readers. I think it's a great adventure, great good characters. Even the bad, evil characters are morally interesting and important in terms of they make you think and they make you ponder and critically think about these people and the world. It makes you think about so many interesting philosophical ideas as well. So absolutely, Philip Pullman's Historic Materials. And that's it. That's the Picture This book tag by Shelley Swearingen and Spread Book Joy. Thank you, Gina Stanyer, for sort of tagging me in your book tag, even though I completely tagged myself. I am just one reader, and I will see you on the next video.